All right, you dirty little humans of the cardboard, welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today we are looking at Sharks Post Legendary Duelist Duels of the Deep. Very excited. Very excited for this one. Sharks are pretty cool. They've kind of popped onto the scene as a really interesting rogue deck that does some pretty powerful things. It has access to some powerful cards such as Bahamut into Toad, as well as your boy Stealth Kraken, which is pretty cool. So you got to respect them. They do get some nice tools out of this last set. Does it like reinvent what the deck does? No, but I do think it takes the deck to the next level. Some of its extenders / starters are just higher in quality than they used to be. And so I think it means you can play more flex spots in the deck because those engine cards are a little bit stronger now and you can lean on those a little more than you could before. And yeah, so here we go. Here's my list for Sharks. This deck is, by the way, in my opinion, like a solid rogue deck if you want to play it. I do think you could top a regional with it. YCS is pushing it. But yeah, at least a regional for sure. There. So starting off with our monster starters. By the way, I'm going to break this up a little more professionally here. I'm going to go with starters, extenders, reliant extenders, so just slightly worse extenders that need setup, and then defensive cards. So starting off with our starters, I'm putting double or triple Buzzsaw Shark as our best normal summon in the deck for sure. I mean, just pulling a fish out of the deck is not just pulling a fish out of the deck, even though it negates it, because you pull stuff like Right Hand Shark or something like Lifeless Leaf Fish to get that potential draw later in the duel. Kind of started off early. Really, really amazing card. I really, really love this card for sure. Best normal summon. Next up, I'm on 2 copies of Lifeless Leaf Fish. How about that, guys? This card's pretty cool. If you don't know about him, because you maybe played him as a 1-of before, or maybe not at all. He says when he's summoned, Foolish Burial any fish monster from deck to grave. Then you can also banish him from grave, or banish. Yeah, he banishes him and banishes himself in grave. Jesus, sorry. To target 3 fish monsters in your graveyard, shuffle them back into your deck, and then you draw 1 card. So it potentially gives you a draw, and is just an Armageddon Knight for fishes. Like, this card's just solid. And because of Crystal Shark now, this card is a 1-card Stealth Kraken, so I do count him as a starter. The fact that he is a 1-card Stealth Kraken, to me, makes him good enough to be counted as a starter now. Especially since he can also confirms follow-up for later turns as well. Now, this card is interesting because you could definitely make the argument this card's just a superior extender, but I would argue just because he's so consistent that like all you have to open him is with any water monster or a card that puts a water monster on the field, like he gets him, and then he can just search you. That's the craziest thing is he adds any level 3, 4, or 5 Mr. Fish monster from your deck. So one of the things I am focusing on in this deck is that like Buzzsaw is one of the best starters in the deck, but sometimes you don't really get the Buzzsaw. The deck doesn't have any searchers for Buzzsaw that are great aside from Abyss Shark. And so one of the things I do is I play a handful of extenders that don't need your normal summon at all. So if you open Abyss Shark and an extender that doesn't need your normal, that means you can go like do the regular extender without a normal, then you summon Abyss Shark, and then Abyss Shark searches Buzzsaw. You haven't normaled yet, so now you go normal Buzzsaw, summon another monster, and you just get so far. It lets you connect 2 starters, and so because of that, this card also counts as a starter to me. But if you already have a starter, he then just becomes like a very, very good extender. This card is amazing. So amazing. All you need is a water monster on the field to summon him. Then he searches any level 3, 4, or 5 fish. Doesn't negate him or anything, just locks you into waters, but our deck doesn't care about that too much. So yeah, this card is amazing. It's definitely the best card of the new cards. And I don't think it's particularly close. And the last starter is a couple of main deck cards, a couple of spells actually. Pot of Desires. I just count this card as a starter because if our opponent has Ash, they're probably going to Ash this because they just don't want us to go Super Plus. So even that, like the fact that it can bait Nash prior to committing anything to the field is really strong. And if it resolves, it's just drawing us into our engine. I count it as a starter, pretty much. Really good card. All right, then we move to extenders, starting off here with the new one, Crystal Shark. I love this card. This card is so freaking cool. So pretty much this card says if it's in hand or in the graveyard, you can target any water monster, summon itself, but banish this card when it leaves the field. That doesn't matter because you're always using him for an Exceed summon, so he's never going He's never just leaving the field. He's going to grave as an exceed material, so he works. And just the fact that you get him in grave every single turn and he just comes back every single turn. So good. I really, really like this card a lot. I think it's just a one-off. Drawing it would make it a fine extender, but the fact that one, you cannot make Bahamut with it or Dweller or anything. You have to kind of just make Stealth Kraken with it if you're making a rank 4. Kind of brings down his overall value, but the fact that it's every turn is just so good. So yeah, I love this card. Just get it in rotation and you have a free extender every turn. Really good. Then for the basic stuff we all know and love, Triple Silent Angler. This card's awesome. Really good extender for the deck. Sometimes he is one of your best search targets off of stuff like your Abyss Shark, depending on your scenario. But also I would just say be wary of this card because he does have that stipulation that once you special him from the hand with his effect, you cannot special from the hand at all for the rest of the turn. So just be careful you're not using this too early and locking yourself out of stuff. Triple copies of Tenyi Spirit Shathana. This one's a little bit weird. Now, I do want to stop on this one because I have not always been a big fan of Shathana. I just think it's almost like playing Unexpected Dying in your deck. You don't have to play necessarily like extra bricks, but it's like you have to see this card exactly in your opening hand or it's otherwise not going to be very good. Here's the thing though, this card is one of those extenders we talked about with the Abyss Shark. It puts a level 4 water on the field without your normal, which means if you see this with Abyss Shark, you can then go summon Abyss Shark, then use Abyss Shark to search Buzzsaw Shark, and then right there you have like Bahamut, Toad, plus a Kraken just off of those 2 cards. That is insane value, and I love it. It's so good. So Shathana is pretty good. And also, I don't hate it. Opening 2 of these is still a 1-card Bahamut, 1-card Kraken, whatever you want, 1-card Dweller, or 2-card Dweller, I should say, sorry. 2-card there. So like, it's not like seeing 2 means the other one is completely dead. It's just a summonable body and you can make that work. So at the end of the day, I still think it's good enough. All right, then moving into some spell extenders, Triple Ready Fusion. This card is awesome. I love this card because, again, it puts a level 4 water on the field without your normal. So Abyss Shark paired with this is so good. It also helps, again, there are plenty of decks where get your normal summon popped, you kind of are just out of luck because a lot of your extenders kind of need a water on the field, right? Whether it's Abyss Shark, whether it's Crystal Shark, whether it's Angler, they need waters on the field. So having more extenders that help us just get waters on the field even after our board has been interrupted with can be really nice. So I really like this, even though it makes our extra deck a little bit tighter. I do still respect that. I also play 1 instant fusion. You know, it's just another copy. And if you see 2, I'd rather see this and a ready instead of double ready because obviously hard ones per turn. I'd consider dropping 1 ready just so we don't see 2 copies, but like it's still like one of, if not like the single best, like just 1-for-1 extender in the deck. And then the last good extender is Foolish Burial. Whether you're sending Abyss Shark, whether you're sending Crystal Shark or Right Hand Shark, it just gets you a body. It gets you an extender. It gets stuff in rotation, so it's really good. Also, you have this card, which is us beginning our kind of like Reliant extenders. So double White Mirror. I thought about playing 3, but I just felt like this list in particular doesn't play enough great targets for this when you really think about it, right? Because it needs not only a level 4 lure fish that you put in the graveyard easily, but also a level 4 lure fish that you are almost always going to have another copy of in the main deck to really make this card worth. And so realistically, our only targets are like Buzzsaw, Leaf Fish, which I won't play 2 of, so if you know, that's not always going to be live, and the Silent Angler. No, we have stuff like Abyss Shark that helps us search it. We have stuff like Foolish Burial to send one of those if you need to. It's not the end of the world. You know, if you like it's not super inconsistent is what I should say. But I do still think this card is such a powerful extender. I didn't want to completely exclude it from the deck. I definitely think it needs to be included. Then for the other monster contingent extenders, Right Hand Shark, just the fact that he needs to be like, you have to have no monsters on the field, easier said than done. But it is really nice to pull out of the deck off of like Buzzsaw to get him in rotation. So that way, even if your opponent does break your board, you could easily have this plus Crystal Shark in the graveyard and just like, even without doing anything, without your draw for turn, without any other follow-up, you already have like a free Stealth Kraken coming to the field super easily. which is really cool. So it really puts a lot of pressure in terms of grinding on your opponent. And then Remora, I had dropped this card from the last list as well because this card's pretty bricky. You have to already have a good hand for this to be insane. And it is insane when you see it, but like it makes good hands insane, but it doesn't make bad hands good or playable in any way. So the reason I'm playing it now is because of Abyss Shark. The fact that he can just search this in hands where you know your hand's already good, but this card's going to like take it over the top and really let you like just have a really high ceiling play is pretty nice. So like when your hand's really good, you don't need to search Buzzsaw because you don't have a normal summon. You don't need to search Angler because you already have plenty of extenders. This card is the single most powerful extender you have. It's just only powerful when you already have a good setup. So for that, I still like to play it at 1 just because it's searchable, but it's an easy side out card for sure. You don't really want to draw it ever. So it is what it is. There. Okay, so now I move to the defensive cards. That's all of it, your engine, your extenders, your starters, all that stuff. For our hand traps, triple Ash, don't need to explain that at all. Triple copies of Effect Veiler, don't need to explain that either, really good in the format, and triple Imperm. This is like the basic 9 monster hand trap lineup that a lot of people have been rolling with as of late. I feel like those are pretty solid versus almost all of the top tier threats at the moment, so we'll take those. Moving on with some more defensive cards, double copies of Forbidden Droplet. I like this card a lot in the format, helps you play into boards, and this deck definitely appreciates having like a defensive card like this. This helps you resolve stuff like your Buzzsaw Shark, as well as like Abyss Shark. If you can resolve him and like get to Kragan, then like Kragan threatens something immediately as well, just with that immediate pop, which is really cool. There. Double Cosmic. So Cosmic's something that I kind of particularly like, especially right now. We have seen a little uptick in Scythe locking decks, and so I think because of that, this deck you just lose. You just straight up lose if you get Scythe locked. So I wanted cards that could respond to that. So not only do we have the double Cosmics, but we also have the Called By. So technically like 3 cards that just kind of respond to a Scythe lock and hopefully keep you from getting your keister pounded in. I'd almost consider a third, but that seems like a little overkill. You could easily play a matchup where these are like not great in, but because of that, and like most matchups, like Despia, like hitting Branded in red, Sword Soul hitting Blackout, right? Floanderies hitting their back row. Like it feels like most decks in the meta like give you something to go after with Cosmic, but 3 just felt like a little bit too much of a commitment to the main deck, but you could side more for sure. All right, then we move to the extra. This is going to be pretty straightforward. Double Stealth Kragan and double Kragan Spawn. This is pretty standard, I think. I really like to. I have seen lists that only play 1 and 1 just because it's like make it and either win or not. But I do feel like there are grind games where the first one gets outed and like having the second one could be like super clutch. So I do like to play the second one with the second Spawn. That's just me though. Next up, double Bahamut and double Totally Awesome. These you have to play mandatory. Some people would even argue that 3 and 3 is mandatory, but for me, 2 and 2 is fine, especially if you're going to play the double Kragan, double Spawn, because you can always make Kragan, but there are times where you can't make Bahamut. So that's another reason why I like the double Stealth Kragan, because like Abyss Shark and Crystal Shark can make it, whereas like those two monsters, which are some of your best extenders / starters, cannot help you make Bahamut. But you got to play them. Too good. And I love being able to mix those, because then you have negation, which is obviously insane, but being able to pair it with quick removal is a really strong pair of interruptions. One Dweller, once you know the matchup, like this card can be insane in. Also, once Tier Elements come out, this card also becomes even more insane. That this card will just like single-handedly win that matchup for you. It's really good. Then we get to some of like the random Exceed cards, right? 1 Drill Driver Vespanado, 1 F-Zero with, the big F-Zero, and 1 Zeus. Zeus is mandatory. Like this deck is pretty Exceed forward, so you have to play Zeus. I would almost consider a second Zeus. I think it's probably more cheeky, more cope than anything, but like, I could see a second one coming up, theoretically, but it wouldn't be very often. These are really good because sometimes when you have hands that you're not really using much of Abyss Shark or Crystal Shark, you kind of just have a bunch of level 4s and you go Bahamut, Toad, and then take both Bahamuts into this. It gives you double Omni Negate, 1 monster negate. This guy's also can't be destroyed or targeted, right? No, it just can't be destroyed, period, which is still good protection on a 3K body anyway that also has a negate on it. And plus the toads float when they're sent. So like you'll have 3 interruptions with 2 follow-ups guaranteed, and it's just too good. When you end up in that scenario, this card just feels so unfair. And then Vespanado. Vespanado has a couple of things that this card does. One, it allows you to like make Bahamut, use Bahamut to summon Toad, or, well, no, so you'd use it to summon Toad, and then you'd be able to attack, just if you're, normally Bahamut wouldn't be able to attack, so you'd be able to overlay this to make it, one, not only a 2500 beater that does piercing and floats if it's destroyed, but also to attack to then make you able to summon a Zeus. Now, you don't always want to summon, you can't summon Zeus on Vespanado that turn, but you could potentially put it on the Toad if you wanted. I don't know if that's always best because that means you probably won't have a second material on it, but like the fact they can give Bahamut an attack when it otherwise wouldn't can actually be pretty important, all things considered. So I like this card. This is probably the most cuttable slot in the extra deck for sure. But yeah, you know, feel free to try and find something else. The second Zeus, maybe another rank 4 to look at. I don't know. Something like Tornado Dragon just for back row removal in the extra deck. I have no idea. You know, pick your poison. And then the final cards, just double rare fish. I like this. We're playing 4 copies of cards that summon this, so felt like 2 is pretty, like, that makes sense. Like, nothing too crazy there. Just so good. Level 4 fish, you know, helps you get your rank 4 plays. So there you go. That is my my Shark deck profile post Legendary Duelists of the Deep. I'm really happy about this one. I think they're really cool. Plus we have the new fish archetype coming up, so I'm very curious to see what exactly we see out of that. I know it seems to be more synchro based, but that doesn't mean some of these extenders won't still be good. I mean, Abyss Shark really doesn't lock you into Exceed Summoning at all. He just locks you into Waters, so he could still be an insane extender for a deck like that, as well as some of the other fish stuff that already exists. Beautiful Princess, Mermaid Shark, all of that stuff. Who knows? We will have to wait and see, though. But yeah, really exciting. Let me know your thoughts down below. I'm just one guy building these decks, so let me know in the comments your thoughts on the build, what you would adjust for your build, and I'd be curious to hear your thoughts, definitely. But I'm out of here. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more deck profiles like this down the line, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.